morally paradoxical, open-ended determinism. Of is both closed and open at the same time. George Sanders in Lincoln in the Borough makes an implicit comment on Willie's death was caused by the excessive use of freedom promoted by American democracy. The hubris of freedom found its nemesis. This is just a small detour from my main argument. But the question of slavery in its implication with the question of democracy introduced in the Republic poses another enigma. Slavery has been so integral to the social and political economy of the nation that some people thought the emancipation of slaves would dismantle the economic stability of the nation. There is no doubt there is some truth in this statement. J.S. Calhoun, the Southern demagogue who was both Stephen Douglas and Jefferson Davis's mentor, stated that slavery was a cornerstone of the economic and political stability of the South, and its removal will cause the breakdown of that edifice. For a person with selfish interests in protecting the wealth of the South and things associated with wealth, like expansion of colonialism and slavery beyond the American territory, Lincoln was not, Union was not a matter of emotional significance. Therefore, his statement, Calhoun's statement, this union must be the work of time, was to be taken as his ultimate goal as part of the perverse logic of what Stephen Douglas calls manifest destiny. In such a fractured politics that he narrated as President, Lincoln invoked the founding fathers for guidance and support. Through his close reading of their work, he found out that what they did under the circumstances available to them was remarkable. They succeeded in containing slavery within the colonies where slavery was enforced, but did not allow, through new legislations like the Ordinance of 1787 and constitutional amendments, it to spread to newly developed territories. However, 3/5 clause in the Constitution was an anomaly, and Lincoln tolerated these small discrepancies on the grounds of political and constitutional necessity. Word necessity he quotes many times in many contexts. In his lexicon, the word necessity has thick connotations and uses the word in different contexts. But when the Missouri Compromise of 1820 was repealed by the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and the sanctity of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence was violated by 1850 Compromise, Clay and others we all heard so brilliantly, fabricated as a way of preventing the Civil War to socialists by such respected statesmen as Daniel Webster and Henry Clay in their unholy alliance with the Southern politicians. Lincoln called this act as a sellout and a capitulation to apologists of slavery. Lincoln's Peoria speech, 1854, on this act was the most comprehensive and masterly analysis of the political discourse of the time and its relevance to what was going to happen. This speech, in a way, destroyed Douglas' political ambitions and propelled Lincoln into the political arena to take its position as the leader. In the House divided speech in 1858, as part of his debate with Stephen Douglas, and under the shadow of the Dred Scott decision by the American Supreme Court, he stated clearly and succinctly, echoing Bible, the house divided itself cannot stand, and the government cannot endure half slave and half free. He expanded this notion in his second inaugural address on March 5th, 1865 with greater clarity and with a tinge of compassion towards the defeated South, with malice towards none, and with charity for all, with the firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with nations. This is the quintessential root of American democracy, envisioned in their sagacity by such men as Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Adams, Hamilton, Franklin, and the formative years of the American Republic. Now Lincoln joins the pantheon and perhaps occupied the highest place than any of his predecessors for the supreme sacrifice he made for the nation so that the future is assured and democracy bestowed upon it by its forefathers continues to spread its beacon light across the nation and the world. Let us take a small detour to the formative years of the nation to understand how the birth of democracy inextricably bound up with the images of the slaves. Preface, letters from an American farmer, 1782, articulates this paradox by asking a pertinent question: what is this new man American? He was puzzled by this question. Without expecting an answer to this enigmatic rhetorical question, Preface proceeds to write about the new democracy, juxtaposing his excitement with some vivid images of the he saw around him. One of which was that of a black man blinded, whipped to a bloody pulp, suspended from a tree in a cage to die slowly from starvation, dehydration, and sunstroke. I'm quoting from letters from the American farmer. This image of a slave in captivity and torture continues to recur throughout American history. Even Lincoln had a similar view of such an image in Washington, D.C., very close to the Capitol building during his tenure as a congressman. And this is what Lincoln said: a peculiar slave trade, where droves of Negroes were collected, temporarily kept, and finally taken to southern markets, precisely like the droves of horses, unquote. Although for reasons of political necessity and expediency, they understood their rightful place in the republic and hoped for their eventual extinction with the maturing of democracy. Although for reasons of democracy, expediency, founding fathers did not raise questions about this. And David Bromwich remarks in his essay called Lincoln and Whitman, as the representative Americans, included in his book called Moral Imagination, published in 2014. For Lincoln, the maintenance of democracy will be a task different in kind and harder than its founding. But Lincoln doesn't have a clear-cut answer to how such maintenance will be made possible. However, in a reply to some questions about how he could visualize the state of America after slavery is abolished, he gave this very clear, indeterminate answer. I'm using these two words deliberately: clear, indeterminate answer. He says, free them and make them politically, socially our equals, with a question mark. Free them and make them politically, socially our equals. My own feelings will not admit of this. And if mine would, we well know that those of the great mass of white people will not. Whether this feeling occurs with justice and sound judgment, it is not the sole question. If indeed, if it is any part of it, a universal feeling, whether well or ill, cannot be safely disregarded. Use Lincolnism with its little ambiguity. In these sentences, which could be called characteristic, deliberate obfuscation of an idea, in their double-edged suggestion, Lincoln doesn't disavow the possibility of the dawn of a universal feeling among the people that will ultimately make a difference in America in its long march to freedom. This universal feeling, which Nixon says would emerge among the genuine goodness of human heart, feeling coming from the genuine goodness of the human heart at the end of the catastrophic event, any catastrophic event will determine the shape of things to come. It is almost like Emily Dickinson's forgettable lines, after great pain, a formal feeling comes. So lines from Emily Dickinson, after great pain, you have to experience great pain to develop certain kind of artistic formalism. You are going to be a creative writer, you must suffer a great pain. After great pain, a formal feeling comes, which implies that an experience of great pain produces creative awakening. And Lincoln perhaps is mentioning to some extent you have to go through certain kind of adversity in your experience to get great pain so that something new, some kind of universal feeling will be awakened in you. The other reasoning which Lincoln makes is that love of justice is an eternal conflict with selfishness. And in the battle between the two, justice will eventually triumph, he says. To quote him, slavery is founded in the selfishness of man's nature. Opposition to it, it is love of justice. These principles are in eternal antagonism, and when brought into collision so fiercely as slavery extension brings them, shocks and throes and convulsions must necessarily follow. Repeal the Missouri Compromise, repeal all compromises, repeal the Declaration of Independence, repeal all past history, you still cannot repeal human nature, he says. It still will be the abundance of man's heart that slavery extension is wrong. And out of the abundance of his heart, his mouth will continue to speak. It's a brilliant statement. And this following statement from Lincoln's message to Congress on December 1st, 1862, embodies in absolute clarity and candor what I call the root of American democracy, the root of what we call the radical democracy in America. And Lincoln says, in giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give and what we possess. We shall nobly be saved or meanly lose the last best hope on earth. And again, as I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master. This expresses, Lincoln says, my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this, to the extent of the difference, is no democracy at all, very clear. Lincoln, as a visionary statesman, never had thought of American democracy merely in terms of its handling of contingent issues. But what he said and lived for has to be understood in that context. In certain moments of philosophical despondency during the war, he turned to God and destiny, he says. He quoted Hamlet, there's a destiny that shapes human ends. Always he quotes that phrase, God's destiny. Or as Captain Ahab said in Moby Dick, which is my favorite text for, I'd like to say to all of you that my favorite text so far has been Melville's Moby Dick. Captain Ahab says, some people have compared Jessica Loon to Captain Ahab. I've seen some reference to Captain Ahab. Monomaniac, a possessive, self-possessive man, and completely mad madness visualized. But here is what Captain Ahab says. I am fate's lieutenant. I act upon orders. It's almost like Lincoln saying at the crisis, despondency during the Civil War, I depend upon God, fate's lieutenant. I act upon orders. In his House Divided speech, 1850, he struck an Emersonian note. If we could know where we are and whither we are tending, we could then better judge what to do and how to do it. This sense of time as transcendence, you have to know where we are and what we're doing. That is the context like Lincoln was talking about. The kind of political and constitutional necessity that he said. It is necessity is not material necessity, something that you have to understand the moment in which you are present. That moment has some significant role to you when you are trying to make a decision about the fate of the nation. It's in that moment, that time, sense of time, or the place, sense of place, and James's idea of the sense of place is very, very important. That sense of time as transcendence. The time is no longer time. Once you are part of the time as a necessity, that time has already been transcended. Time as transcendence is an insight present not only rarely in gifted persons, not an insight presented only rarely in gifted persons. And Lincoln was one such a gifted person. Emerson marked very beautifully about Lincoln, how he used the moment and transcended it. That is what Emerson says. Emerson marked in Lincoln this profound insight. He declared, his mind mastered the problem of the day. So he lived in time, the problem of the day. And as the problem grew, so did his comprehension of it. Rarely was man so fitted to the event. This man. And he was a man of time, he was also a man of timelessness. In other words, Lincoln was not only a product of his context. It is unfair to say Lincoln was a product of his context, as if he did not contribute anything productively to that context. You can say he is both a product of the context of his time, also the producer of that context, like Shakespeare was. You can't say that Shakespeare was the product of the Elizabethan age. He also produced the spirit of the Elizabethan age. Producer of that context, like Shakespeare was before him. That is why he goes back to Shakespeare, and particularly to a play like Macbeth to study, because to study the mind of Stephen Douglas, he read Macbeth again and again to know. He said, I'm interested in Macbeth because Macbeth actually gives me the sense of the agony and the anxiety of a man who was aspiring to go to a height which he doesn't deserve, like Macbeth. So either to study the psychology of Stephen Douglas, he studied Macbeth thoroughly and internalized it. That's what I say that he produced the spirit of the Elizabethan time, and Shakespeare did tell, he produced the spirit of the Civil War time, and Shakespeare produced the spirit of the Elizabethan age. So he's both a product, he's both a man of time, also transcended the time. It's a beautiful way Emerson summarized Lincoln's time and timelessness. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. That we organize every December. December is still far away, it's some 2 months away, so if you are interested, you're invited to come and enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for 3 classic presentations, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to get any violence here, but we're over time, so we will take you can ask some questions, they're going to be around for the next 2 or 3 hours. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll have the Lincoln lecture. That's okay.